Hey, what's up guys? John here. Today I have Yosef Martin on the podcast. He built a company from zero to a $470 million in annual recurring revenue in 7 years. I mean, it's absolutely insane. 20,000 paid subs inside of the first year. 1 million paid subscribers at the time of exit, a $500 million exit. He owned the company. I mean, it's an incredible journey. I'm really getting to ask him and learn about this because for me, I'm an online business owner. Probably you are as well. You know, a lot of people are today. But there's so many things that people get wrong and some things that people get right. Yosef seems to have gotten a lot of things right, and I wanted to bring him on the podcast to learn from him and to ask him some questions that I had, and I think it was a really, really value-packed episode. I learned a lot. I think you're going to learn a lot, and enjoy. Hey, what's up, guys? John here. Today I have Yosef Martin, who sold his business in March. I believe it was March of 2020.
No, it was meant to be on March 2020. It ended up on December 2020. COVID happened in March.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we had a different buyer at that time, and everything had to change. And we thought we're not going to sell the business, but eventually we sold the company for our competitors, and that was in December 2020.
December 2020.
Yeah.
He sold his subscription business, which sold makeup and kits for
monthly beauty subscription box. It called BoxyCharm, and we sold the company to Ipsy, which was our rival, for $500 million. And what we specialized was just sending a subscription of makeup that you see in Sephora, Ulta, Macy's, so on, and different places for $25 a month usually. And the value would run about $150 to $200 value for the subscriber, but the cost was $25. So the company had about a little bit over 1 million members by the time we sold it, signed up members, and that's what happened.
Incredible. How long were you in business?
This company ran for about 7 years.
Well, you went from 0 to 1 million subs in 7 years?
Yes.
That's incredible. What was the first year like?
So actually we had a soft launch in 2013, right? But it was a soft launch. We kind of like we hit some walls, and we understood that what we think we're gonna have to do is actually not what we needed to do. So we postponed the main launch for January 2014, and the first year. So we started after the first soft launch with a little bit under 1,000 members. But so January 2014 we had roughly 900 members, and then we finished the year with 19,000 members, close to 20,000 members. And the beginning was slow. As we started growing, there are two things that we did. We understood the business itself, how to make better product. We were focused on getting a product market fit. We wanted to make sure that people are going to be obsessed with the product. So we scaled at the last few years much more than the first few years, right? So the first few years was all the learning curves, like a exploratory matter. You try a bunch of stuff. There is an understanding of what's going to work, but there are some things we needed to fix. And once we did, I would say our biggest breakthrough was end of 2016, and then another one in 2017. There was just another one in 2016 and another big one in 2017, and 2019 was also an amazing. I mean, it's hard to say, but another one in 2019. So kind of like had a couple parts where the company transformed again and again and again. Every time it either double, quadruple itself every year, and more profitable at the same time.
So when you were saying that you're obsessed with the product, when you first launched, you had this idea of what that perfect product would be, and then that idea changed once the consumers gave you feedback?
Yeah. Yes. So, everything you think before you launch is up for debate once you start. Once you start, you really get the feel of what the market really wants. And if you're not very sensitive and kind of like putting your hands on if you're not tuned to the market and you're not touching the pulse and you don't know what the market wants, you're just going to run through. Imagine you drive and you kind of like scraping a wall the whole time you're driving. You're driving alongside a wall and you keep scraping it like the Titanic. You're going to drown eventually. The idea is to move.
Right.
You get a zigzag. So you get a lot more zigzags in the beginning when you run a business until you get a grasp of what you need. But you have to understand that the market is dynamic, so there's always changes, right? If you work in an environment that you're the only one out there doing what you're doing, different, right? Different story. There's no elasticity in the market, right? It's a business term. But once you do have elasticity, you have entrenched competitors, they're doing it right. It's harder, but it's also easier because you have an understanding what the market wants. So you can decide, can I actually produce it? So for us, we needed to have a box that has, so the concept at first started great because from the get-go, there was a good part that we got it right. We understood that the beauty box at the time when we started, it started in 2010, where Birchbox was the first mover. And they came up with a concept and they asked a brand for samples, the samples that they're already producing for free. They said, just hand it over to us. We're going to give it to highly engaged consumers that you guys can't find, that are not walking into your stores. And we're going to send them over the box, and then you're going to have them potentially coming to you. And they also had the store and all that stuff, but that was the base concept. Right. Then everyone else came with the same thing. Like everyone came and asked brands for free stuff. When we came in, I decided that it's not sustainable to ask anyone for free stuff. How big can you get? And what if someone comes and actually get the economics to pay for product? I had to ask, what's the cost of goods? And I asked, what is the cost of goods for an eyeliner, for an eyeshadow, for skincare? And you find out that if I only charge $21 at a time, I can get 5 items in my box. And I can make sure that the product combined, all of them would have a retail value of over $100. So this way, the brand doesn't have to incur any cost. I'll get full size, not sample size. Full size is different because you don't have to go for new product development. Sample size require new product development. It's a whole new product. Just because you're selling a smaller product doesn't mean it just miraculously shows up. No, you have to produce it. You have to get a new mold. You have to go to it's just a lot of work. So I go and I tell them, look, you don't have to do any work. I'm going to make sure I'm going to produce it. You just produce what you already made. And it also gives you options to do anything else. So anyway, you get the product for a cost of about $10 for all 5 items. You can if you know how to work it. And then you put it in a box. The brand doesn't have to incur the cost. The consumer get a great deal. They get full size, so they can get full experience out of the product. And the deal is great because you pay $21, but it's always over $100. Good surprise for them. And I can still turn profit. So it was a win-win-win-win for everyone. And then the next part for us was to learn what's good. What are good products? That took us about from 2014 to 2016 to really know what's good. What is considered good was not so simple like you think.
So what was that like? What was your initial belief what good was?
Everything, I mean, when you compose 5 items, you know what good is, but you can't really put a budget in $10 to put them all together until you understand how to do it. In a nutshell, you have to have 2 considerations. One is the cost of goods, and then the weight of the box. A big reason why we're profitable is because I understood that I have to be under a pound. If I can ship the product and they're under a pound, my cost of shipping is roughly $3 at a time. If I don't, it's about $6.50 or $6.80. That is close to $4. Then if I can reduce the cost of packaging, and if I can reduce the cost of labor, if I can go and change, I can save roughly about $9. And all that money goes for product.
Right.
So I was doing that, and once you go a hair above above a pound, your entire economics goes out. So what we would find is that every month, the easiest product that was up until 2016, we learned that most of the products that are easy to procure are hair care and skincare, which means it leaves very little room in weight in the box for color cosmetics. So if I wanted to put an eyeshadow palette, that every time at the time we would put an eyeshadow palette, the box would sell out. Talking 2016. But then if you have already a big conditioner in a box, but a conditioner doesn't sell the box. So we had to remove all the hair products out so we can leave weight. And it took us a minute to understand the error that we keep repeating. Yeah. And in between, when we didn't do that error and we would have an eyeshadow palette in the box would sell out and everybody would go happy. And then we would find that, we can't put an eyeshadow palette over here because we already have too many heavy items and so on. And eventually we sat down, and I remember that one of my employees, she said, we're sitting and she said, well, we can't keep doing this hair care and skincare in the same box. I went over, I changed all the future boxes because everything is done many months out. And that's where we started rolling. We started growing. Every month we provided eyeshadow palette pretty much all the way, almost every month, because sometimes we would do face palettes. Women would understand what I'm referring to. We did this all the way until we sold the box at the end of 2020, and I couldn't believe how women would keep buying boxes with eyeshadow palettes every time because they need more and more and more and more and more and more. And you start with, say, 60,000 members. You get to 1 million plus members, and they're still buying it. Mm-hmm. Just we dumped millions and millions and millions of eyeshadow palettes into the market for nothing. And
incredible.
Ultimately, I remember I went into a Sephora and someone told me, we used to sell a lot of eyeshadow palettes. When big brands would come in with eyeshadow palettes, it would sell out. Not anymore, and it's mainly because of you guys. You blew up the whole concept of eyeshadow palettes. The perceived value of an eyeshadow palette is no longer. People are not going to be willing to pay that value because they keep getting eyeshadow palettes from you. So in a way, I felt accomplished that I modified the beauty industry a little bit. But that was something that was challenging for everybody, and eventually it came back to us.
Today's video is sponsored by Great Credit Fast. Do you want to invest in real estate or possibly Airbnb? Maybe you want to start and grow a company or a business or possibly get debt free. With Great Credit, you're able to achieve all of this and much, much more. The last thing that you want to do is borrow money from a credit card company paying 25 or 27% interest, because when you look at the real numbers and you look at what's actually happening in the economy, that's the worst strategy, and it's almost a guaranteed failure. Take a look at this. So if you're borrowing $10,000 at a 27% interest rate, paying $250 a month, it's going to take about 9 years to pay this off and about $16,000 in wasted resources paid to one of these credit card companies. However, with Great Credit, you're able to do a balance transfer in most cases and get debt free for 0% interest and pay this off in a fraction of the time. In 2008, banks started tightening up lending restrictions, and that's exactly what they are doing now. They're getting ready to tighten up lending restrictions, meaning that if you have that low credit score, 400, 500, 600 credit score, if you're in that even low 700s, it becomes much more challenging to get access to money. But if you look at Blackstone, for example, Blackstone, they are using their credit and their relationships to raise money. They've just raised $30 billion to invest in single-family rentals. If you want to invest in real estate, you want to really grow and scale during the greatest wealth transfer of all time, you're going to need Great Credit to do it. We would love to give you a free consultation to see how we can help you at greatcreditfast.com. That's greatcreditfast.com, or give us a call at 561-430-5900. Now back to the show.
Yeah. So how did you scale it up to roughly 20,000 members in the first year?
I was experienced. I mean, it's important to understand my previous background. I had a different business, which kind of like this typical story. I started the company with a couple $100. I was an international student, and my purpose was just to pay the out-of-state tuition. And I was selling truckloads of excess inventory, and I was flipping them, and I was doing search engine optimization, 03, 04, right? That's when I started. And I was pretty good at that, and I was fascinated by it. But then eventually social media came in. It was social bookmarks, and I adapted to it. So dig, Reddit, stumble upon, and I was able to hit the front page because, again, we're talking algorithm. We're talking, even if it's hand removal, okay, as long as there's an algorithm over there, I can figure it out. So I used to do a lot of link baits, and at that time, no one called it growth hacking tactics. Mm-hmm. It was just tricks that we used to call it, and we were a bunch of friends calling each other, and we had all those tricks, and we would hit the front page, and you would get thousands of links and all that. That was back then, and then when you come into a beauty industry, and when I looked at that space, I said, this is a miracle. I love this space, because when I was a wholesaler, no one's gonna go and talk about you. No one's gonna post about you. They'll keep the secret and they'll take it to the grave before they'll give you any credit, right? Because you're a secret for you're a source. Mm-hmm. But when I saw it's a box, I said, those girls are talking about the boxes. I got to get into this business. This is awesome, and I can. It's all on Instagram. It's all YouTube. I can figure it out. This is an algorithm like anything else. And Instagram was a small company. It was just a new platform. I figure usually when it's a new platform, that's when you jump into it, right? Because it's a supply and demand. There's a lot of demand for content, not a lot of supply. Mm-hmm. So if I come in now, It just can be a lot easier to go viral.
Yeah.
And the algorithm is usually very, very primitive at first, so you can hack your way around and grow. And this is the time. I have to jump on it. So that was another reason why I wanted to come into the subscription box. And above that, it was just, I figure they will promote me. Nowhere, all those years when I had my liquidation company, no one is going to promote their supplier. Over here, like, this is paradise. You kidding me? Let me go. And that's how I got in. And talking about motivation, that was one of the motivations. It was just something I knew I can win. And I saw the opportunity and I figured I can make it happen.
Yeah, it's interesting because in 2013, 2014, 2015, YouTube was big, but nothing like it is today.
Nothing like it is today.
And like back then, I think a lot of people underestimated it.
It wasn't like it is today, but you have to understand the difference. Back then, someone with, say, 2 million followers or 1 million followers or 500,000 followers were so relevant. They would sell out. I mean, people's websites were crushed. If it is, I like this product. Those don't happen anymore because now people have filters. They understand they're being sold to. Mm-hmm. At that time, it wasn't. It was just a girl talking about makeup from her dorms or something, and they believe everything she said. So if suddenly someone go and say, hey, do you mind promoting my... First, you would respond to your email, which was rare because today, now it's not.
No one
they have agents and who are you? But they would respond to you. The second thing is, they would just, you're going to send me a free box? Thank you. Try to do that today. That's just not happening, right?
Right.
So you start early and also it was easy to find, because you come in as a marketer, you can tell the winners, like the future winners, right? So you can tell who's going to win. And I was looking at Kathleen Lights, and I remember Kathleen Lights, now she has about 4 or 5 million followers. And I remember I was working already with a couple hundred YouTubers when I started, and I noticed that she always get good engagement, but what I noticed with her was that something about her editing, we're talking 2014, okay? How do you go viral on YouTube? Well, I figure it's gonna have to be about the engagement, the duration. If I was to write the code and I wanna know that the videos that get the best engagement, meaning you stay the longest, would give me would get all the juice, right? So I figure, all right, something about her videos are different. She's very charismatic, but there's a lot of charismatic and pretty girls, but something about her, and I didn't understand at first why, so I kept looking, why is she getting high engagement every time? And I said, it's not because of her consistency. And then I noticed her editing. I said, every 2 seconds she had a cut. She would cut every 2 seconds. So she would take out all the and then you would see her head moving all the time. So it would stimulate you. And I said, okay, she's going to go. So I said, all right, she was the first person I signed a contract with. I said, 3 years. You're going to be in 1 million subscribers. You'll see. And yeah, I mean, in 3 years, she was way more than 1 million. Well, I was thinking it's 1 million. It was much more. And the idea was to find the big ones early on and the relevant ones early on. And, it was, again, you use your experience in the past. And those are skills that help you grow. Now, this is all nice. But if we were not focused on getting better products, all that is out the window.
Right.
Because just like they're going to promote you, they're also going to trash you. And people research. So this is not like a wholesaler that nobody knows anything about you. This is different. This is the other way around. If it's not a good product, don't even try. Don't even promote your box this month. Just stay quiet, wait until next month. Don't send any boxes to any influencers because you're going to get trashed and it takes a while to get out of a hole. And then, so it was a lot of that, right? At first it was banging on doors trying to get products. Nobody knows you. Nobody wants to deal with boxes because they were dealing before with boxes, subscription boxes, and they had bad experience and so on. I don't want to give anything for free. They would hang up the phone. We'd call again like, no, but we pay. And like, how do you pay? Or we don't want to do sample size, but we do full size and we pay. Okay, now we'll talk. And then it was just hard. And the main thing was to get the big brands, the known brands, the Estee Lauders of the world. And that took us years. And up until 2017, we didn't have any success. But 2017 was a big change because that's when they started rolling in and we started working with big brands and we became bigger.
So you had how many influencer marketers did you go with in 2014? And what was kind of like
about 100 at most, or something like that.
Was it more of like an affiliate structure, or you also
no?
You
we
pay
would
them
just
and
send them free boxes, and there was no room to pay any affiliate because there's
the margins are so slim.
Yeah, but in around 2018, I want to say, I decided that we can't keep working with 130 influencers. Let's stack it up. Let's do 2,000. And I think at the time we sold, we were working with about 1,500 to 2,500. I can't tell you on top of my head, but that was But then we had the big ones, right? We would have, what's an influencer? I mean, we had Kylie Jenner all the way down to smaller influencers that are more, I don't want to say nano, but more micro influencers with, say, 10,000 followers or so on. That was all good. I mean,
they have a tight-knit, a tight pulse on their following.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I believe you spent time with Kris Jenner and the Kardashians, right?
Well, we worked together. It's just not like every week I would go, hey, chilling, what's up? Like, it wasn't like that, but we met a few times, yes.
Yeah, she seems like, obviously, their family is extremely intelligent, and what they've done with social media and brand building over the last decade has been incredible. What are a couple things that you've learned that have helped your business spending time with them?
Well, it's a good question. I feel what you noticed is that there's something about successful people, and not just with the Kardashians. There's a reason why they made it for so long. Right? No one was relevant for so many years. I think it's the second decade that they're relevant, right? It's not an accident, right? I feel there's something like Alexander the Great. After Alexander the Great passed away, the Greek Empire fell apart, right? I feel like if I had to guess, they're all great, they're all smart, but you have to have a person on top that knows how to move everything, and that would be Kris.
Yeah,
she's the Alexander the Great. She's the patriarch of the family, and that's the idea. And there's a lot to learn from her. And I think that it would be nice to see her speak a little bit about building an empire or just talking about her experience. That would be better than any business school.
I agree with that.
Like what does a professor have on her? It's like nothing. And also the thing is, dealing with them, I can tell you that they're nice people. They are humble and nice people. They're not bad. People like to go and look at a successful person and find negativity to say, well, that makes me feel better about myself because they made it because of X, Y, Z. I decided to be all righteous over here. That's why I could have done this. But no, it's not. You guys couldn't do it because they were better.
Right.
That's the reason. Yeah. And they're actually good people. So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. You toured her office. Did she give you any kind of insight on, business or where she sees?
First, we only met twice. So we met first at her house, and the second time was at the office. It was Kylie Jenner's office, but I think it's it was Kylie and her sister, from what I remember. It was a big office, and she spent a good an hour and a half or so showing me the office around. It's beautiful. Let me tell you, if you're a makeup lover, it would be a paradise. Where everything was on brand, everything was amazing. There's just a feeling in a place over there where you're doing something great, and it was very nice. I mean, I can tell you that I had no idea what I'm getting myself into when I got into the beauty industry.
Yeah,
the beauty industry was what a ride. The people you meet, and then put aside the Kardashians, the Jenners. In general, the people you meet over there are just really interesting because you have, on one hand, you have New York. That's the mecca of the OG brands, right? On the other side, you have LA, completely different. That's all the influencers. And some brands, but primarily influencers, right? Beauty influencers. And those are two civilizations that didn't really interact together.
Right.
Coming from Miami, I was jumping on a plane every 2 weeks, once here, once there, once here, once there, just to catch up with everything. And eventually I was able to pierce the clique in New York after it was easy in LA because that's influencers, that's cool people. And I mean, they're all cool, but it wasn't corporate, right? It's not like you need to talk to someone that talks to someone and now has to do work because they want to work with a new box. And there was a challenge why boxes didn't catch on fire right away with the big brands right away. There was a reason why. But once we became so relevant with influencers, the big brands felt it's time to work with them. We need to be there. We need to put some time in, and that's how, so I needed both of them. I needed the big brands in New York City, and I needed the influencers. Influencers was right away, easy. I came at the right time. I built relationship the right way. Everything was great. We're still friends. We're still going to baby showers. We're still seeing each other in parties. Nothing changed, even though I'm no longer in the industry and I can't go into it even if I wanted to. But friends are friends, right? General friendships. But then from there, it was helping me to get into the main brands, right? And then once you have the big brands, the new influencers want to work with you because you have the big brands, because you're relevant. So it was like a magic cycle that the rich get richer, if you want to say.
Interesting. So how did the first, what brought you initially to BoxyCharm? Was it?
I created that. That's I'm the founder.
No, I know that. No, like what brought you?
What brought my idea? So when I was running the liquidation company, big piece of it was makeup, but it was kind of like a drugstore excess inventory from CVS, and Glassy Box, it's a competitor later on, bought from us some products and asked, what is a subscription box? And someone told me. So I looked into it because it was interesting, and that's when I decided I can do it better. You can turn it off, I'm sorry. So I figure I can do it better. And that's...
that's kind of like how everything just kind of...
Yeah. And I wasn't jumping into everything. I mean, I had that company, I was doing good, but when I told you, when I looked into that space, I said, you kidding me? People are promoting the stuff they're buying. I want. And I also wanted to get out of the junk business, because ultimately when you get excess inventory, it is junk. And you have to get a big warehouse, but where do you go when you want to get a big warehouse? The cheapest part of town. And figure, why not having a professional setting? Why not being in a nicer part of town? I mean, I'm going to stay because I looked at my competitors, I did very good, but you'll be surprised how good I did in liquidation. I was growing from being the student in that industry to one of the industry leaders. But then when I looked at what's the end game with this, is that you see the bigger liquidation companies out there that are running it for so many years, and it's sons running what the dad used to run and all that. It's just the worst part of town. Yeah. Every day you have to be there. And your office is nice, your house is nice, you have a nice car, but you're still dealing with that versus going into, say, nice part of town and you see an intern dressed to impress with a nice suit.
Yep.
They're not making a lot of money, but how much does experience cost?
Mm-hmm. The quality
I want
of life.
that, the quality of life.
Yep.
So I said, I want to have a business that's not going to be that. Why did I have to choose that? So that was it. That was my getaway card from the junk industry.
Interesting.
I loved. I gotta say, I don't want to put it in negative. I loved the garbage industry. It was amazing.
Yeah.
There was money into it, repeating clients, there was opportunities. It was very rewarding, but there are limits to it. You couldn't scale the same because you have to wait for merchandise to come. You cannot produce more merchandise. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's nothing exciting in the market. So it's like, but and then again, I figure I rather get out of it and give it a try so I can be in a nice professional setting. And boy, I was glad that it happened.
I think I saw a TikTok of you. It was one of the first TikToks I think I ever saw of you. You were saying something along the lines of someone offered to buy your first business and you're making a few $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And they were willing to give you, I think, $3 million or $4 million for it or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it made you really start to think about long-term
I
enterprise value.
was grossing 10 million, but the profits take home, it was that because you have to have operating capital. So on paper you make more, but you need that money to buy. So what you actually make is not really what you make. But I was surprised they wanted to buy. I said, why? But because I didn't have the mind, or because he was smart. He knew how to get money very cheap. And in fact, he got it with some most of my sales were going outside of the US. So he was a smart guy. He found a way to pull money from some private equity that have some government benefits for anyone that works in a tax credit zone, which I was in. And then he modified to another tax credit zone, like a little bit better relocation. But then what they also did was they showed that about 80% of the items are going outside of the US. And he told me everything. He was very honest. He told me, look, I'm buying it. But 95% of the money that I'm borrowing is guaranteed by the government because 80% of what you sell goes overseas. So they want us to invest in those businesses. Like, wow. Because I was worried. I was like, what if it doesn't work for you? I mean, you're taking a big debt over here. He said, yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Don't worry about the debt. I was like, wow. So that's what opened my eyes to, I've been selling truckloads and pallets of merchandise when I never thought of selling a business. And one event sets you for life. Mm-hmm. So how about I'll build this business for exit? I need to stop thinking lifestyle business. And it's funny when when you start running the business, you do the first round. And I remember I was sitting with two of my guys. I hired two guys. One was a CFO and another one was kind of like COO. We had like 10 employees. So, I mean, COO, it's all relevant to what size company. But we were sitting down and they did come from the finance world and we were just starting Boxy. For me, it was second year. No, in the second year for BoxyCharm, we already grossed 10 million.
Wow.
My other company, it took me about 10 years to gross 10 million. That's just to show you what happened once you already made it. It's so easy for you to make it a second time.
Right.
By the time we sold, we grossed 470 million. So it was, but then we were sitting down and I remember we were talking and I told them, we're grabbing a beer and I said, how much can we sell the business now? And they both said, it would be easy to get 20. Tell them, say it again, 20, let's put it for sale right now. I mean, I just started the business, get 20 million, not bad, right? Good cash. And I remember we put in the process and we got a bid, 26 million valuation. Like people, now it was funny because the day where we were supposed to get all the bids, I did not believe anything is going to come up with any money. I think it's kind of bullshit, like there's no way. And at the time I was also running the liquidation. So I had the liquidation making 10 million. I have the box making projected to finish with 10 million in sales. It was the end of 2015. And I didn't think anyone is going to come and put all that money. That's crazy talk. So, 6 p.m., I'm driving back home. I forgot that was the day on the bids. Because the way you do it, you go with investment bankers and they're going in and they're showing it and there's some people you meet and some are interested. A couple conversations with potential buyers. I didn't think anything is going to happen. I forgot about it. I remember that the CFO told me today, it's the day. I said, yeah, whatever. I figured nothing's going to happen. I drive and I get a call from my bankers and they said, and that was the first round. Imagine the second round later on when we sold for 500 million. But the first round was, I'm getting a call like, well, and the guy was very monotonic and he spoke very slow. He said, today was the day that was supposed to be, and I thought he's going to continue with that sad voice to tell us that no one wanted to bid.
Right.
And I was about to say, it's fine, don't worry about it. We'll try maybe in 6 months or a year. And we got 2 offers. The better one was 26 million valuation. What?
Yeah.
Where do I sign? Like, wait a minute, we got to make sure. No, what? Nothing. I sign right now. Let's go. So it was, and the good thing is it was all secondary. So what they did was they said, we'll buy a chunk of your business. We'll keep you with a big chunk. And then you're going to be motivated to go for another round, but you get all the money because we didn't need any money. So I remember that the first time was 12 million in my pocket. And they still wanted to put 3 million on the balance sheet, buy the other 2 partners, which they were small. So, and then and they were not partners; they were just sweat equity that they came in a little later. So they came in, and I remember I called my wife and I said, "All right, we got the offers." Like, "Oh, okay, good. Are you coming home?" I'm like, "You want to hear how much? How much? What? Well, we're gonna get money for a piece of the business." She said, "Well, how much?" I'm like, 12. 12 what? 12 million. Oh, stop fucking with me. I know you because you're a prankster, because I do. I always going, no, I'm for real. And she started crying like, no, for real. I'm like, yeah. And then when we went to the second round, now it's 500 million. It's like, so we actually, Max and I were separated at that time. But there was no one else I can talk to about it. Mm-hmm. Not even my mother. No, I want to. So I told her there's a chance we get another 10 million. I didn't tell her the real numbers. I wanted her to be. And then when I told her the real numbers, the second time around, she's like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. It was crazy. So yeah, there's those moments that, but the worst part is when you get the wire, you're not getting excited.
No, how did you feel?
Nothing. And that's just it. And I spoke to friends of mine that went through the same thing and none of us got excited because you go through the whole due diligence, takes you 6 months. You know what you're going to get and then you get it. So you knew already what you're going to get. So you're not excited over it. So when you get it, you're like, fuck, man, why can't I get excited? Wow. And I remember the bankers like, what do you feel? Now you see it in your bank account. Said, yeah, I'm happy, but I lied. I wasn't. I was happy, but I wasn't excited because I knew it's going to come. For so long, I was working for it. Yeah. It was a fascinating part. For me, it hit me about 6 months later. That's when it really hit me. I sat down one day and then boom.
What happened that day?
So I bought a house. I started by consulting for them, and then at that point I didn't have to consult anymore. And I remember I sat down, I have my kids' days and my ex have her kids, and I dropped off the kids. I had about a week or so to do whatever I want. And I remember that the reason it hit me was not because I have the cash and I can do whatever I want. It was because I no longer have to manage a business. I've been managing businesses for 20 years almost, 18 years. And that was the first time I said, wait a minute. It's a beautiful house. And it's like, I'm sitting down, I said, life is, I don't have to wake up for any stressful thing. Even though I loved what I used to do, I don't have to wake up for another business. And they open up the country after COVID. So the country is open. I can go and jump on a plane wherever I want, whenever I want, anytime. And I'm free. I'm single now. I don't have the kids for a week, and I can do it for the rest of my life. And the ability to do it for the rest of your life is only because you don't have a business to manage. It's less about the money, because the money is like, you know what, you can figure it out. It's less about that. It's the fact that you don't have to manage a business that you've managed for so many years. And that's when it really hit me, because it was the combination. It was the combination of everything.
And so what did you do that upcoming week when you realized all that?
I think I jumped on a plane and went to the Cannes Film Festival because I had some friends over there. And I remember my friend called me and he said, what are you doing? I said, nothing. He was like, we'll come to Cannes. I said, okay, when? I thought he's going to tell me in 2.5 months or some. He said, and Tuesday. I told him it's Friday. He said, yeah, go get a suit, couple of them, and you need a tuxedo too. But make sure it's like Dolce Gabbana or something, because they know everything. They're gonna judge you. Come, you're gonna see. I'm gonna change your life. Cannes. I went to Cannes, and as soon as I got there, another friend of mine that sold his business, Shipunk, like a month after me, big exit. It was, I'm in Barcelona. I'll come over. Oh, there's no flights. Okay, I'll take a jet. Boom. He came over and it was awesome. It was just amazing. And just, you go in and you can walk around the streets without picking the phone and worrying about someone calling you, because when they call you, it's nothing they could solve. No one was able to solve it. It's all about you.
Right.
And, when you run a company and when you get out, there is a moment where you ask yourself, how did I make that path without fail? How did I get to it? How did I make it? There's probably about 200 subscription boxes, like BoxyCharm, coming in around the same time. And that includes Sephora, that includes Macy's, plus a bunch of other entrepreneurs, some of which are very successful prior. Harvard graduates, why is it that the only company that had a major exit was me? At that time, I hope others are going to succeed in the future, but so far, that was the largest exit in that space. I'm like, how? Why did I do so? So it's a process that you go in and you keep asking yourself and what. And I can tell you that I had a couple assumptions of the why, but ultimately it comes down to the fact that I had skill sets that I never let go while I was running the company. I had skills and I had laser focus on making sure that the product is going to be superior all the time and the experience would be pristine. It was not always pristine, but that was what we thrive to do, right? Because I was focused on that, it allowed the company, everybody else were able to facilitate everything around this, but it made me very proficient in what I needed to be proficient. So when we spoke about products or marketing or even the experience, and I was very, very skilled and I was very proficient. Proficiency makes people follow you. You can be a much better leader. You don't have to be the most charismatic person, but if you're proficient, people know that you know what you're talking about. So they're going to listen to you and they're going to respect you. And they're going to follow you because of that. And once they start following you and they see that you keep coming up with the right decisions, ultimately you're going to get the respect. And then it's building your confidence, because you do need confidence to manage people. Everybody needs it. You ask yourself many times, is it for me? Am I just lucky up until now? This is all kind of bullshit. Like my competitors are all Stanford graduates, Harvard graduates. Who am I? Why am I I bring in people that have seen different bosses in the past. And eventually, as you keep winning, you say to yourself, chill, you got it. It's okay, you're actually good. And this is your business. No one can beat you in this one. Other stuff, yes. Not in this one. Okay, don't go cocky, but you're the best over here. Because you do make all the right decisions and you don't fucking fail. Because you understand the business, you understand the concept, and you're very skilled. And when you speak out of proficiency, it's different when you speak out of excitement or out of ambition. No, it's different. When you're proficient, you understand why everything is in its place. And that's where you give that proficiency to other people around you, and then your staff is more skilled, more proficient, and everybody aligned together.
So what part of your focus was product? Well, you were 100% product?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example. Two things. So if you came to BoxyCharm, you would understand what we're doing right away. We would start with the goal, grow. While you're profitable, we grow. We want to grow. That's our goal. How to reach it? 4 pillars. Content is king, customer experience, brands experience, influencers experience. Those are the 4 main strategies to reach that goal. Content is king, meaning product. It must be a king. Not a prince. It needs to be a king. It needs to make people fall in love with your stuff. I don't want them to say it's okay. No. I want them to say it's fucking amazing. I want them to tell their friends. I want them to tell everybody. And everything comes down to the fact that the product not just sell itself. They need to go and make people say, how the fuck are they making profit?
Yeah.
Second is customer experience. Customer experience, after you get the 4 pillars, it breaks down, right, into details. But that's for everybody. Everybody that comes, okay, customer experience, they have to make sure that the box gets there on time, not broken. If you send a customer service request, the time to first response and the quality of first response have to be there. The customer experience on social media, that has to be pristine. They have to love us. When they come on our platform, they need to feel something about this. We sell them nothing. We don't promote anything. We talk about what the products that we can get, how to use them, but that's for members. That's what they want us to get. Then funny memes, funny content, videos, stories, always in the office. Make sure that they'll see the same 4 or 5 people that are using stories in the office so they feel they know what's going on over there. It feels very much like a reality show for them.
Right.
And then everything was... So when we talk in experience, we would do events called BoxyCharm sessions. We didn't turn profit. We didn't lose money. We didn't turn profit. But at that point, we take the super charmers that love BoxyCharm, couple hundreds of them in different cities. We would go and meet with them and they get to see us. And you can imagine what happened when you have a small group of super advocates, how loud they're going to be on social media.
Yeah.
It's going to amplify the look of the brand as if you have so many people loving you. Now, overall, we help them build their own communities on social media with Facebook forums, and I can break it down later on. But that was the experience. Then the brand's experience. Give them the best-in-class marketing campaign for free. We're not promoting BoxyCharm. We're promoting the brands. Nike did not promote shoes. They promote athletes. Mm-hmm. We promote, and I didn't think about this at the time. I only recently heard Steve Jobs giving that speech. I'm like, shit, that's what we used to do, right? This is it. We did not promote BoxyCharm. We promoted the brand. We promoted the product. When we didn't have the big brands, we took, and then the last but not least was influencers experience. My new when I started the business, I said, all my new friends in the next few years are going to be, I'm opening room only to influencers. That is, so I would go in, dinners, fun, not selling you nothing. Let's just go for dinner, lunch, talk no business. Don't even work with me, doesn't matter, with friends. You have no idea what it does when you're in that clique. And genuinely, you stay friends with them or their boyfriends, and then they break up. Their boyfriends, you're still friends with them because I can't stop. The guy is cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, you don't like him anymore. He was cheating on you, but the guy is my brother now. It's like you introduced me to. So it was genuine. Yeah. It was all genuine. But then this is what happened. Now you're in that clique, and all of them know you already. Now we're friends. So who do you think is going to win? Someone that goes in and send an agency to connect with an influencer in 2018, 2019, 2020 when they've been getting busted, or me when I can call them and say, hey, listen, I need you to make a couple posts, help me out on this one. Yeah, sure. Whatever you need.
Yep. Yeah, I saw I think you were talking about a Facebook group. You tried to get accepted to, it was Boxy's Facebook group. You got in it. It was a small community of like a hardcore believers.
Yes.
And then you did a launch of a product and you're like, oh, I think I'll do 40,000 buys. You end up doing 30 million in sales.
Yeah, what we did was, so in 2017, I wanted to kind of like hear the sentiment over the box, and I got on, and I noticed that Facebook have this feature called forums. I think at the time they called groups or now it calls groups, or back then it was formed one of them, I don't remember exactly. And I joined just to see it. So when you join, they have to approve it. And then when they saw that I'm a man, they said, hey, listen, we're only doing women unless the men are into makeup. I was private, so they didn't know. I said, look, are you really the founder of BoxyCharm? We just want to know. I said, I am. If there is anything, look, you don't have to put me, I just want to see the sentiment over the products. And oh my God, we're so happy. And they were posting, we're so honored to do it. And then I ended up going on the Facebook, on BoxyCharm Instagram page. And I said, by the way, you notice that, sorry, let me go back. When I joined them, I noticed that those are the super charmers because they would call each other charmers, literally. They said, oh, we need another moderator, another charmer to be a moderator. I said, those are the super charmers. They are super engaged. Let me go and give them a sneak peek before everybody else. So I gave them a sneak peek 2 weeks before. And that would always go viral outside of the forums. And then those forums grew because like, how the fuck do they know? What do they know? And then say, the owner is there, he's telling them. So it was kind of like a hush-hush, and those who knew and so on. And they started growing from say 2,000 or 3,000 to 10,000. But then I got on I got on BoxyCharm page, and we had a big following over there. And I said, by the way, if you want to know how some people know before everybody, in this page, we only tell you on the first of the month what's going to be in a month. On the Facebook forums, I tell them way in advance. So those are the couple, to name a few, here's a few. And they blew up. And then everyone wanted to open a Facebook page, a Facebook forum, and everybody wanted to open an Instagram fan page because they knew I'm going to engage with them. I'll do live with them. And, you know, pages went to like 100,000 or 80,000 followers on Instagram. And then they would have, and I was, and then on the Facebook forums, at the time when I sold it, I was already involved with 100 different forums. And the largest I saw was over 90,000 members. Wow. Highly engaged. When I tell you highly engaged, now the algorithm in a Facebook forum is not the regular algorithm. When you're going on your profile and you talk, it goes randomly to your followers. It shows them a little bit. And then if it does good, it looks for lookalikes and, you know, a small amount of lookalikes. And then if it does really good, it finds a lot of lookalikes and it brings it over, right? But that's one. When you're in a Facebook group, depends on the group itself and the engagement on the group. The algorithm treats certain individuals in certain forums differently, where you go and you, because mine would get all the engagement, whatever I would say would go viral. And when you do it in a bunch of forums, it goes everywhere. So what I did was, I wanted to make sure that on social, how can I use it? How can I leverage that? So the idea was to go and tell everybody, look, on Tuesday at 3 p.m., I'm going to give you a sneak peek. Why? Because there's about 300,000 people that are going to go and search at 3 p.m. Eastern time, the sneak peek everywhere, right? YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, wherever, right? What happened in all the platforms, I would go on Google Trend and I would see the spike at 3 p.m. spiking. And then what happened was everyone that would search BoxyCharm would trigger the algorithm at that moment. You don't want them to search over a month, 300,000 people over. You want 300,000 people searching your term within 1 second, within 10 minutes.
Right.
That's what spikes. That's when the platforms can actually notice that. And then they said, oh, wait, something is trending. So BoxyCharm is beauty related. BoxyCharm is this, bunch of lookalikes. Everybody needs to see something about this brand is trending. Just share it with everybody. And anyone that would talk anything about BoxyCharm, maybe that's a content, right? So the algo doesn't know. The algo would just promote anyone that mentioned anything related to BoxyCharm. So everyone that mentioned BoxyCharm goes fucking viral.
Yeah.
Guess what? Everyone wants to go viral. So everybody keeps talking about BoxyCharm. And I would do it 3 times a month. Boom, 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 like a clock to keep that tension going. And I had products to go and show for. So I would say, okay, that product goes here, that goes here. And I would also do a bunch of other stuff. I would talk with my phone and I would have like in a buck, like products that would be in 6 months from now. And they would say, hey, did you see behind him? He keeps doing this once a while. And I would comment and say, I would have the same terms all the time. I would say, interesting. I would look at their comments and I would comment like, oh my God, he said interesting. Usually when he said that, it actually means that it's true. And then they would always verify later on. So there was just small amount of very engaged people that you got to keep them fuel to bring other people and make them the same. Because you want to make sure that you lure everybody into the same pot. Because tell me who your friend, I tell you who you are. Mm-hmm. So you bring them all together. And that was the strategy that we kept rolling it until we sold the company.
So how do you think you made BoxyCharm cool enough to where people would actually go about building the community for you?
You focus on making people wanting to build a community. Instead of you doing everything yourself, you ask yourself, what do I need to do to make people want to talk about me? It starts with product and then the experience. That was an experience. Everything we're talking about, it's an experience. When you ask yourself, community, so many people say, we have a community. They don't know what the hell community is. Community is a group of people with the same space, with the same in the same space, with the same interest, activating together. What is the space? Facebook is not a space. Instagram is not a space. A space might be a fan page on Instagram. A space might be a get-together in some place. A space can be, and then from there, you need to have the activation. They all have to activate together. So if they comment, that's an activation. If they get together, it's activation. We would keep thinking about ideas for activating them. And that was the idea. You have to get them to connect together and talk together all the time. So you have to amplify it this way. And the cool factor is an interesting thing. I mean, one of the first advice I heard was from a lady that was doing, she was managing the campaign for Beats by Dre at the time. And she said, you have to look for the cool factor.
Yeah, like look at Liquid Death. Liquid Death blew up so much to the point where people are getting tattoos. They got 1 million+ followers.
Yes.
People, like they have that almost like a modern day Fiji water. Like people are bragging about having Liquid Death.
Yeah. So if you put your mind into that direction, right? Don't think about profits. You need to be profitable. It's okay. We need it to be profitable to keep our head above water. But as long as the engine is profitable, you have to think about how do you make people get. You want the advocacy to be at the highest, right? You want to make sure that. Remember that at first, when you have small amount of people, if they're not very passionate about your product, it's going to be very hard for you to scale. When you are small, you have a lot more opportunities to get them to be very passionate. And if they're passionate, I much rather have a small group of very passionate people in opposed to have a very big community of people that just like my product.
Right.
The very passionate people can go and
what would you do if you did a launch and you're like, you think it's a good product, the market doesn't, they're not raving advocates. Would you just pull back and just rethink everything and just like...
I would kill it.
Start over?
Yeah, I would not. I would rather, so fail fast, right? And people forget that term to fail fast. We launched, I'll give you a good one, I'll give you a bad one. Because I think if someone sits down here and he doesn't tell you about their failures, either they're hiding it or they didn't push hard enough. Because you have to fail sometimes, right? So... when that's Elon Musk line. I didn't come up with that, but I agree with that. So the idea was we wanted to launch a box that would be a quarterly box. Doesn't matter why, it's a long story. And the quarterly box was supposed to launch in September 1st, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 2018. We sent one email and I went on a couple of forums and I said, here's some of the product. No, we didn't send an email. I'm sorry. We did one post on Instagram, and then we went on a couple IGs, a couple of Facebook fans, and I said, here is a link for an interest list. We did an interest list, which sounds weird. What the hell is that? Well, we couldn't do a wait list because to do a wait list the way we wanted to, we needed to get more than an email. We wanted to get your credit card so we can run it when... So we did an interest list, you put your email, and then we'll email you when it's time to come and subscribe. And we got about 175,000 emails. Now, I knew that it's a bunch of bullshit. Like, this is not like people put 2 emails and a bunch of the people they're not committed to anything, so they're not really going to go in. Now, I didn't know how many boxes I need, and I didn't want to buy more than what I need, and I still wanted to sell out fast. So I figured 20,000. Maybe it's enough. Probably I needed 40, but let's do 20. When we ended up saying, okay, go, like 9 a.m., I remember we all came to the office, and I knew it's going to be a problem because we had on the 2nd at 9 a.m., it was 175,000 people on our website clicking the checkout button. On that second.
Wow.
Throughout the day, it was over 200,000. The site crashed. Forget it. It was crazy. I mean... Some chicks were trolling me on my, I was clicking and it's not working, you're useless, go back to your country. Oh wait, they probably don't even want you there because you can't even get a website down. Like, everyone were mad.
Yeah.
And I remember that they were going on angry for like months and months. Like, it was few, but it was
Wait, this is before Boxy?
No, that was in BoxyCharm. That was we're in it. We're already the coolest in the block, right? So we sold the 20,000, and then 3 months later, we got it together and we basically ramped it up to 200,000 boxes. And all it took was posting one time on Instagram and then on the forums. That's it. Not even an email blast.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and then the annual revenue from that was 30 million. That it wasn't within the same month, but the annual revenue, when you do the math, that was.
What's the churn on someone like with a low ticket product?
So
like
the
that?
first ones that joined did not cancel for so long because it was so hard to get in. They were scarred from the process of not being able to go in. I don't remember how long it was for that particular box. It was, and those were the highest engaged consumers too. So the churn was, but for us, and I can't really reveal churn numbers, but I can tell you that a subscription box that has high affinity, eventually the affinity starts shrinking as you scale the size, right? So when you have 200,000 people, the churn is not the same like when you have 1 million. Right? Because people with affinity for makeup, you got them already very early on, right? All the other people that came later on, some of them has the high affinity because it's just new people that came into the market with makeup for whatever reason, either their age and now they're into makeup, or they're not necessarily young that come into it, but now they started exploring themselves and now they really are passionate. But so you have those, they always come in, but now you have a lot more people coming. Every day, thousands of people are joining. You don't have all of them at the highest affinity for makeup. So it goes down, and then, then you have to do a better job segmentizing for them. And you have to build a tool where you say, well, I need an algorithm to know who needs what and when. And some people are not really going to be into makeup, so I have to find other categories, or I need to get them more skincare, more whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be makeup related. But even at the time when we had over 1 million members, the churn was very low, relatively to very, very
right,
low.
Of course.
Yeah.
Would you miss Voxy in the beginning, like that beginning grind?
Oh man, it's kind of hard to remember the beginning sometimes. The end was amazing. Everything was amazing. Every process was amazing. I feel like the end was so fascinating. The end was not about selling it. I mean, where we were, because we were at the peak of our game, right? But also, there's some moments that are memorable moments. Like you said, you sold it in March 2020. We were supposed to, March 25th, 2020, to sell it to a big private equity. I knew months before that because I noticed the shipments not coming out of China in November. And I told my partners, guys, don't wait until the end of March. We're going to have a problem. No, we have to give him time. Like, I'm telling you, don't be a doomsday. I'm like, what? Like, what? Guys, you don't understand. There's a problem. I'm telling you, we're going to run into a problem. And I remember the defense minister of Israel said a couple months before that, it's going to hit everybody globally. And I said, guys, can we do it in like January? Like, no, and anyway, the process requires its time, and then it was the best thing because we end up getting 20% more than, and I didn't have to stick around forever after, because when it's a private equity, there's no one else other than me that can run it. But when your competition buys it, they already know the business. They can run it. They don't need you. So that was a blessing.
Got it. How big was your team at the end?
Not very big, like 150.
And
W2 employees. We had hundreds of people in the fulfillment center, but those are temps, and then you have people in the Philippines and hundreds of people in the Philippines and the Dominican Republic for customer service. But W2 employees was about 150.
And what about the first year?
It started with one, and then two, then three. I did not build a team right away. I started with an intern. Then I started with the intern turning into an employee, plus another person, another person, another person. It took me a while. The challenge for me to scale the team was real when I got to about 20 employees or so. It was very challenging. But because I sold the piece to my partners, they were great. They gave me perspective, and they said, you have to hire from the top. Find yourself someone like a big bulldozer and hire from the top. He's going to build it underneath you. And then once you do it one time, you understand how to scale. But I did need to figure it out. Like, other people knew it before.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, it was allowing me to focus on everything that's important early on, and not scaling a business and managing and all that. But it was a little bit unorthodox also. I mean, this is not the regular structure. Everybody comes with a little bit more structured business, even in the beginning. In my case, it was absolutely scrappy, completely scrappy.
What are you going to be working on now?
Well, my main thing that I personally do right now, I build a team of PhDs with math and physics in Israel for a quantitative tool. I'm sure you've seen Billions.
Yeah.
And you saw the bald chick that does a quantitative
tool. I've watched like a couple random episodes, but I don't know it well.
So quantitative tool, for those who don't know, is where you trade in a market. If you're a day trader or whatever it is, you can just look at the day trading by understanding, analyzing the market or a stock or so on, or you can put a math behind this. And algo trading is a thing. A lot of people do it. The question is who has the better AI behind this, who has the better tool. To get the best tool, you have to get the best minds. When I build the algorithm for BoxyCharm, really at the end, who needs what and when, you see the perspective when you have a rock star and you have, let's just say this, an average engineer versus a rock star engineer. The difference is that a rock star engineer will solve a problem that 1,000 basic engineers will never figure out. So if you find the right people, you can make miracles. And I said, well, the next bubble is definitely going to be AI. Recklessly, people are going to invest in that space. Everything is but from the outcome of this, our life is going to be different, right? The AI is going to basically be like the internet. It's going to change our life. Bubble. Yeah, it's going to change our life. It's going to start with a big bubble, but not because it's wrong. It's because people recklessly invest. Like a lot of investment groups, they have to allocate about 10% of their money to AI. They know nothing about it. They just have to put it on their books, right? So I wanted to build something that actually works, and to prove that it works, it has to make money. And I said, why not? In the future, no one is going to trade without having some tool that can manage it for you. Like no one, if you have any strategy, give me that strategy and I can put it on zeros and ones and they'll do it better than you with zero emotions, right? Then why not? So anyway, that's what we're building. So that's one of them. And I have another one. I believe peptides is going to be the future. And then there's an opportunities that I'm looking into right now. Peptides, I feel like it's getting more and more known. And I feel like...
What is it? Peptides?
Peptides, yes.
What is that?
Peptides are proteins, amino acid chains.
Okay.
Now, without getting into it, I'm not going to claim I'm an expert, but I am using it for a while now, and I've seen the different. Taking peptides, I'm taking specifically, for example, MAT-C, right? It rejuvenates your mitochondria, which rejuvenates the part that where the DNA sits on, right? So your cells are getting healthier. It rejuvenates a lot. I don't want to break it all down, but for me, what it did, other than skin rejuvenation, it just makes an amount of energy that you have every day is just different. And we're talking how it's amino acids. This is not steroids. This is not. So I believe that that's going to make a lot of different. People are going to get more and more aware. Right now, it's known in Hollywood. It's a secret of Hollywood. It's if you talk to Navy SEALs, they'll tell you that 20 years ago, when you're already getting to your 40s and you're still in the SEAL, they will tell you, hey, use this. This is what they're using now. It's a complicated business because it's all regulated by the FDA. This is health. This is not beauty. This is health. This is injection. That's a shot that you take in. But if you can streamline this to the average consumer, if you can make it streamline and then control the cost, because right now the cost is, from what I research, is enormous. This is an opportunity. I didn't finalize everything, but this is what I'm looking into as well.
When you say the cost are enormous, what would be the type of
the cost
consumer?
So compounding pharmacy that makes it to what they sell it, just huge margins. So if I can buy compounding pharmacy and say, let me put it in an easy way to buy the product online, that would be
yeah. Obviously the opportunity is immense. Yeah, I was listening to a CNBC article or a video maybe 6 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago of a hedge fund. They only do all their trades with a AI bot.
Which one? What's the name?
I forget the name, but he was talking about a trade that he did with Carvana. And he's like, oh, we would have never had this trade, but because of this bot called it, we ended up making a huge return on it. And he's like, now we're fully leaning into.
Yeah. If you listen to Joe Rogan with Eric Weinstein, he talks about Renaissance technologies, which is considered an enigma, and they've been.
It may have been them.
Yeah, it might have been them, the Renaissance. Actually, Jeff Bezos came from a quantitative hedge fund. So it's a thing, right? It's a thing, but up until now, I feel like it was more of an enigma. Oh, you got to be secretive. It got to be crazy brains. And like, no, it's actually not like that. You can go and do it without all that craziness. But I still wanted to bring the crazy brains. So when you talk to the crazy brains, they tell you, well, it's not cutting edge anything in math. It's actually the only reason we would be happy doing this because there's a lot of return in money.
Yeah.
Like, okay, then that's good enough of a motivation.
Speaking of money, if you were a new entrepreneur, the last couple of years, it was cool for everyone to be an entrepreneur, right? Now things are the economy's changing, the world's changing. If you were to start a new business without the experience and the history that you have and the money, what would you be looking into?
Yeah, so I say acquire a skill first. Acquire a skill that's usable skill. Don't go and think of, that's for me.
Yeah.
There are plenty of opportunities, but when you have, when you ask yourself, why is it that one can find opportunities and you can walk next to that person and you're not going to see it? Why? Well, when you're already building something, you're already putting stuff together, you need another piece in the puzzle. You can notice that piece, oh, that's missing in my puzzle. But if you're not doing it, it's just something on the floor. You're not paying attention to it. You're not going to think about all the architecture around that particular piece. When you acquire a particular skill set, and I like marketing because when you acquire marketing skill sets, especially online marketing, any type, by the way, it's going to be easier for you to, let's just say you're good with viral videos that are selling something, whatever. You say, well, I can sell this. If I would have this, I can sell it. Okay, now I just found it. Now let me go and do a video. I know how to do it. It's a lot easier to find opportunities when you have skills. And that's what I would say. Now, I don't like to give advice to those who are not entrepreneurs. I feel like the entrepreneurs needs to be skilled. I can give directions to an entrepreneur. I don't like to give an advice to someone that doesn't want to go and be an entrepreneur because it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
If I need to convince you to go and do it, let me tell you all the negative side about this. Do you want to know about all the challenges that you have when you run a company, you're at the liability and the mercy of a person that wants to sue you now and take everything you didn't even make it. So there's plenty of reasons why people shouldn't be entrepreneurs. But those who are entrepreneurs, giving those type of directions are important. Be skilled. Don't expect to hire. I feel like when people go and say, you have to let people, if you hire someone, just let them do the job.
Yeah.
Yet, if you're the CEO and the company failed, it's on you. Well, what did you tell me now? Are you telling me not to touch what they're doing, even though I can tell they're making a mistake? Tell them, let them do it. But if they fail, it's your fault.
Right.
This is where you need to stop listening to everybody and do what you think, what makes sense. First, if you don't understand what someone does, you are at their mercy. So you better understand what they're doing so you can inspect. If not, you expect what you don't inspect. And when you feel they're doing something wrong, go ahead and ask. Now, if you feel like, hey, they can fail, but it's not going to kill my business, okay, let them try. But you need to know what you're doing. Or if you feel like, look, they have no clue where they're coming from, and it happens to me, it happens to many of us. We're like, no. Just because I told you to do something doesn't mean I'm going to give you a free checkbook. Go ahead and kill the business. Absolutely not. Learn what they're doing. You have to be skilled. And now you're going to tell me, well, I can't know every aspect of the business. If I'm going to hire a chemist, I'm not a chemist. I get that. I understand that. But you still need to inspect. Bring another chemist to check. Someone that's independent. Learn something about it. He's a human being. He learned something about that. You should learn too. And eventually you'll understand, you'll have a perspective of what is a good chemist. Okay, a chemist as an example, can be anything else. I had that problem with data scientists. First person, PhD, all that good stuff. I just didn't feel he knows what he's doing, but I couldn't tell because I don't know what good, until he did almost crush the business. We had to let them go, find another person that was night and day different. Now you get perspective. Now you know what good is, right? So be skilled. Don't get lazy. Learn the job. Don't expect people. Don't hope that they're going to know what they're doing. Otherwise, you're going to be lost.
Right. What do you think about where the future of work is going? I think you probably agree, the last few years, a lot of it's changed. A lot of talent's getting outsourced. You look at Silicon Valley, New York, a lot of people working from remote. Hiring in South America is more and more common, in India and other locations. How do you think this trend is going to start moving over the next couple of years?
First of all, I'm glad it happened, right? I mean, there's a point where you're going to say enough is enough. If you go to a place that the labor is too expensive and then you find just as good somewhere else for much less, what do you think is going to happen? Right. Well, that's where greed comes from, right? That's where greed comes from, where you see people say, well, Wall Street greed and so on. Well, no. The greed comes from a point where you say, I'm going to ask you to pay me something while he's asking me he's going to ask for half. But I'm so greedy, I'm willing to lose my job because I'm not considering the fact that there's someone else that can do a better job, that want to wake up before me, and they're going to be happy with half of that salary. Right. Because now I have benefits and I have unions and I have all that stuff. That is one problem. So I feel like wherever the place is going to be less unionized, wherever the place is going to be open up, that's where the money is going to go to. And we see it already. If I needed to find a pool of engineers in San Fran, they're going to be everything is expensive in San Fran.
$350,000 a year.
Yeah, for a very average, not necessarily good engineer, right? If you want to find, you ask, but why? Why is it so expensive? Well, I mean, billionaires moved over there. The rent became too expensive. The housing became too expensive. Now they have to. And then there's tax upon tax upon tax in that area. So like the government takes pretty much 60% of their money. Well, what do you expect? That's what they have to do. Now you go to another country where they're not killing you with taxes. I mean, go to Israel. You can see my friends over there. They pay like 30% taxes a year, maybe. Something like that. Rent is not crazy. Everything is not crazy. Just as good. All right, let's go. Right? They speak the language, everything is okay. So what do you see now? You see R&Ds for Intel. Intel is just investing $25 billion to build chips. Everyone is thinking, well, it's all going to be in Taiwan. They have to start moving it. So now they're moving all their chips facilities to Israel, $25 billion just there. Ireland, I know that it's still a hub in Europe. So there's a lot of opportunities. If you have different type of labor in the tech industry, you're going to go to Eastern Europe. Ukraine used to be a place, but it's probably going to be in Poland and other places. India is still going to be a permanent place, but all that is going to spread out. Yeah. You take someone, you train them for that job, and they can do it.
Do you think we're going to step into a deeper recession in the coming couple of years due to we have a couple of things happening? I actually saw a TikTok of you talking about, I sold stocks here. I talked to a banker. They didn't think that the market was going to go down. I thought it did. I thought it was. Yeah. What do you think is going to happen next year or so?
I'm not a financier. Let me start with that. But I feel that if you look right now at the market, there's over $1 trillion that shorts the market at this time. What date are we in today? So we remember the date.
22nd
June 2023. All right. So I believe that what we see right now is a little bull run. The issue that we have is that even though we don't have the subprime loan situation that we had before, the issue that the government started printing money heavily around 2009. And they kept consistently printing more and more money, and they really outdid themselves recently, right? So what happened with that? What does it mean? It means that in order for them to get out of a big hole, they print money. Sometimes it's okay to get into a hole because there's nothing that's going to catch you after. Right now, once you print so much cash, the next time around, they're going to have an exponentially larger amount that they have to print again, which means our money is going to be worth less. Okay? The collection is going to have to come through taxes because they can print more money to pay the debt. They have to collect taxes for it. But now it become an impossible situation for the government to pay out that debt, not with the current tax structure. So it is a challenge. I'm not a financier. All I can tell you is that I don't believe the bear market is over. I feel like there's more ahead of us. We saw a little bull run, but it's a trap. I feel like it's going to go down, and and I think it's going to take a little longer than we think to get out of it. I mean, if you look at what happened in 2001, 2001 was an interesting scenario in a dot-com company and that's what led me to pull the money in 2022 or January 2022, was because I looked at the stock at the S&P 500, and if you look at the S&P 500 in January 2001, it was going to about 1,500. That's what the S&P was going for. And then it went down, and if you put your money at that time at the peak, which that's what happened, when it's at the peak, everyone runs. When it's at the bottom, nobody wants to touch it. It went down to about 800, and then it started climbing back straight into the subprime loans around 08. And at that point, it was interesting because you get to around the same numbers, but we're talking 8 years later. 9 years later. 9 years later, so if you put $1 in 2000, you only saw that dollar back again in 2008. But that doesn't include inflation, so that is much less than $1 now. But then to come down again, and you only saw your money on March 2013. So it took you 13 years to get your money. And the main thing is that people say, and that's what every banker will tell you, is that a bull market is the escalator and a bear market is an elevator because it's shorter. And I said, no. We were in a bear market, in my opinion, all the way from 2000 to 2013. That's when we spiked up. Well, you can say through the spiking, but that's when we broke even and that's when we started going up. But all that happened because around 2009, the Fed started printing money significantly more, and the national debt started rising from a trillion to 2 trillion to 4 trillion and to today 32 trillions. They just printed more money to get out of the last issue. First, with the subprime loan, they print money, but what they wanted to do was they started printing money, but what they did was they wanted to give you free cash. So they knew what they're doing. I mean, Greenspan said himself, we knew that it's going to collapse, but they needed to get out of the old issue. And they created another bubble to get out of the previous bubble, and then they started printing money. I feel like we're still paying for the 2000.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I agree with that. So where are you investing money right now based on what you're saying?
The way it goes in my mind is that the Chinese are playing chessmat and they're winning. And what they did was they said, well, we're not going to buy anymore the T-bills. Mm-hmm. So what happened is, up until now, the main buyers for T-bills, 40% were the Chinese. So when you have a T-bill, you say, well, government treasury bond, they're selling it to you. They're selling it to who? Well, 10, 15% are the banks. China was buying about 40, 50%. Now they're saying we're not buying it.
Yeah, Janet Yellen was talking about they could potentially dump all their T-bills.
Yes. So when they're doing it, okay, that would be bad for them too, right? Yeah. So they might, though, take kind of like a poison IV. But what happened is, if the U.S. wants to print more T-bills, and they're saying, well, somebody wants to buy it for 5%, no. Okay, what about 6%? What about 7%? What about 8%? Whoa. So you want to do it short-term T-bills for now. And that's how I'm doing it. And I'm waiting for... And now, of course, there are other opportunities that are specific, that no matter what, they're making sense. Of course, I'm doing that as well. In the meantime, I just sit down on short-term T-bills. I can't tell you it's going to be promising, but I feel like if T-bills are gone, then the whole world is gone. So nothing else matters at that point. So why am I doing it short-term? It's because in 6 months, it might go to 7 and then 8 and then 9. And what's the purpose of even going into the stock market at that point? Yeah. If you're making 12% return on your money, stock market, nothing. Stock market is risky. This is not. So much better.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about real estate. It's like, why would you buy a building at a 5 cap when you could buy short-term T-bills?
Yes, correct. Right. You want to wait, right? It's time to wait with the cash. For me, I'm waiting with cash. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I am looking at opportunities, but they have to make sense. Those opportunities have to make sense. And that's how I do it. And by the way, there are other places outside of the United States that you can always look. And over there, interest rates are very low. So,
are there any countries you like specifically?
Spain. I mean, Spain, one place, but I'm doing it more for romantic reasons because nice places over there. Costa Brava on the coastline, you can buy it and then just keep it. 60% mortgage for 3%. Okay, and it's extremely cheap. You buy a place that on Malibu would cost you 30, 40 million for 2 million. I'm like, kidding me? And then you get a mortgage for it for 3%.
Yeah.
Okay, it really went down over there. So it's a distressed area, and I'm like, okay, maybe over there it makes sense, and you can put it on Airbnb to pay itself off, and then we'll figure it out. But that's just push some money outside of the U.S. in case of.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that though. A lot of people are looking at America, wondering, you know what, is this going to be the same place in 5 years?
Correct.
In 10 years?
Correct. Yeah, it's no longer the same place that it used to be 5 years ago. So, question what's going to be in the next 5 years.
Do you think we're going to be stepping into like a 2008 type of situation, or do you think it's going to be like a slow and gradual decline?
I don't know. I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah.
Listen, if people were so good, then why do we have a bear market? It wouldn't have happened. Like people gradually would have moved their money before that. It wouldn't be the same way. Like people would have known.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. I really enjoyed
Thank you for
connecting
having
with
me.
you.